Thank you. It's been a really interesting morning so far. I have, I believe, 6 minutes to tell you about $900 million worth of research initiative. So I'm going to go fairly quickly.
Even worse, I think it's 5.
Only 5. All right, I'll go faster. A really high-level overview of what's happening at the NIH. So the NIH HEAL initiative came about through a lot of pre-planning before we were appropriated a large sum of money for both 2018 and 2019 to put towards the scientific opportunities to help address the opioid crisis. And so when that money came through, we were pretty well set with some high priorities, had a lot of planning and a lot of input from experts before we started to launch our proposals internally, where we would eventually solicit research applications from the community. So the HEAL initiative is separated into 2 main pieces, one addressing opioid use disorders, to build therapies for addiction and overdose, to look at real-world implementation research to really optimize the interventions that we now have, and a big focus on neonatal opioid withdrawal system. On the pain side, we wanted to make sure that we got some mechanistic components in this to better understand the neurobiology of chronic pain, although this whole initiative addresses both acute and chronic pain, to accelerate development with partnerships of new medications for pain, and to build infrastructure that would really help as clinical resources to advance the research agenda across the federal government. And so these objectives do fit in very nicely with the 5 pillars that were set up to address the opioid crisis by HHS and through the current administration. So briefly today, I'm going to show you that we've got a range of proposals on both ranging from preclinical through clinical research to improve pain care, and also implementation research, which is where Dr. Shurtleff will pick up the conversation. And so very quickly, there's a big piece of the HEAL initiative on the pain side that's devoted to analgesic and device development for better pain management. So I'll go quickly through some of these programs and then talk a little bit more about where non-pharmacological strategies fits into the research agenda. So we're building infrastructure to really incentivize our partners to come in with potential new analgesics, whether they be small molecules, natural products, biologics, or device development. And thank you, Dr. Wilson, for introducing devices into the conversation, because this is considered an important part of the HEAL initiative. And so we have screening platforms to look at very, very early stage drug development, look at compounds that are coming in that might have analgesic potential. So these, we have human-based tissue screening platforms and also animal-based tissue screening platforms, which are based on earlier programs that we had for epilepsy, anticonvulsant drug development, which had some really good outputs over the years. This also builds in better animal models for both acute and chronic pain, trying to either develop new or refine current animal models that better reflect the human condition. And so there's also a big biomarker discovery, validation, and application piece that's woven throughout all the new HEAL initiatives on both the pain side and the addiction side. But as far as pain, we will look at developing a set of biomarkers that range from very, very different needs as far as research goes. So some of these will be those that can be used actually in the clinical studies, and those would be used in development of analgesics. And so when we say biomarkers, it's a very broad definition as far as what I'm putting up here, but they could be anything from phenotypic characteristics down to different circulating blood markers, and just a wide range depending on how they are needed. Also looking at biomarkers for treatment response, multiple different pain condition, and also as predictive signatures. An example of the predictive signatures is a program that's already launched as far as getting the solicitations out and applications in. And this is a common fund program to look at the transition from acute to chronic pain, trying to identify biomarkers that take us from early acute stage pain, whether it's from surgery or an acute trauma, and follow the changes in potential biomarkers over time so that we can build an algorithm to help us predict who's resilient to developing chronic pain and who is more likely to actually be at risk for chronic pain, and use those algorithms to develop better acute pain management strategies. We're building on our brain and peripheral nervous system initiatives.
I'm just.
Oh, you're like getting closer. To develop better devices for neuromodulation treatments for pain. We're building 2 clinical research networks and other infrastructure to take in clinical trials. One will be early phase for analgesic and device development to incentivize and move those studies more quickly. The Back Pain Consortium includes mechanistic studies all the way through clinical trials. And so here's a place where there's an opportunity to look at integrative care trials, which would use and integrate non-pharmacological therapies into effectiveness research. And a large effectiveness research consortium, which will build on our infrastructure through what NCATS already has, and will take in comparative effectiveness research trials on many different modalities, including non-pharmacological therapies. So there's a big component for integrated care, but also for non-pharmacological care. And then finally, we'll work into implementation research, and this is where I will hand over the remote to Dr. Shurtleff, who will talk to you about another program.
Thank you, Linda.